Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome Rajiv to this masterclass. Rajiv Jayaraman is the founder CEO of Nolscape. Over the last few years, Rajiv has built a high-octane global team at Nolscape that delivers a superior technology-driven learning and talent transformation experiences for employees in modern workplaces. He is a TEDx speaker. He has a keen interest in the psychology of learning, design, and technology. Prior to Nolscape, he worked at Oracle USA in the server technologies division, where he led numerous product development efforts from ground up. He's written a lot of blogs and articles and a lot of talks, TEDx talks. So I would request you to look at his mentor page on our website and do read those blogs and also listen to the talks. His special interest in the field of digital, in addition to design, technology, learning, and innovation. And that's why I thought he would be the right person to talk to us about what this digital phenomenon is all about. We've all heard it, and we know we're living in a digital age, and we all also understand that we need to be prepared for it. But we don't understand what really it means to be, digital. So today he's going to clear the digital blur for us. A few do's and don'ts. Please keep yourselves muted and your video off. You can always use the chat window if you want to put in a comment or have a question or raise the hand option, and we will unmute you and allow you to talk. Otherwise, towards the end of this masterclass, there will be 10 to 15 minutes of time available for a Q&A with Rajiv, and you can also ask your questions at that point in time. Over to you, Rajiv.
Right. Thanks, Neelja. Thanks for the opportunity. I hope you can see my screen, and is my audio loud and clear?
It's perfectly fine.
Okay, great. Sounds good. We'll get started then. So I have about an hour with me. So what I'll do is I'll present the central thesis of the book, Clearing the Digital Blur, to you. And the last 15 minutes or so, let's have an interaction, Q&A, where we can have a discussion around the primary points that I will be making during the talk. So obviously, I've lived with this topic for about 2 years now, and it's coming out in the form of a book by, in about a week's time is what the publisher keeps telling me. And so there's a lot of passion that has gone into it, a lot of interviews, a lot of insights, a lot of CXO conversations. So I hope to condense all of that and present it to you in a concise, meaningful, actionable form over the next 40-45 minutes or so. So we will get started. I have a very quick intro slide just so that you know where I come from. I lead an organization called Nolscape. We are a 10-year-old organization in the space of experiential learning and assessments. We work with large organizations to do employee development using gamification and simulations. I did my undergrad in BITS Pilani, focused on computer science. Then I did my master's in the US, again, focused on computer science, and I worked for Oracle in the Silicon Valley for a few years. And I got bitten by the creativity bug. You see a couple of pictures of me, one where I'm directing a short film, and the other where I'm acting as Don Corleone in a short film that got selected at the San Francisco International Film Festival. So those were, confusing times for me because at Oracle I was filing patents and doing deeply technical work, whereas weekends were devoted to storytelling and filmmaking. So that was a classic right brain, left brain kind of a problem. So I decided to take a pause. That's when I went to INSEAD in France, did the MBA program from there, and they have 2 campuses, one in France, one in Singapore. So I graduated from the Singapore campus in the year 2008, and immediately after graduating, I started Nolscape. So initially we worked with a lot of B schools across the world, MIT and INSEAD, ISB in India, co-creating experiential learning products for the classroom. And then we pivoted, started working with companies. And today we work with around 300 plus organizations across 25 countries, and we are physically present in 4 countries as we speak, headquartered in Singapore. We have presence in Malaysia, India, and the US. So that's a quick story about Nolscape and what I do currently. And so I've been writing a lot on Live Mint. So I do a column on digital and what it does to all of us, and how should we be preparing for the digital age. If you get a chance, go online to Live Mint and read some of those articles. And I also have done, visiting prof stints, short, guest lectures at INSEAD, at IIM Bangalore, and a few other B schools. And I've done 3 TEDx talks, a couple of them on learning and how we can learn better through experiential methodologies. And one of the talks was a little offbeat. It was about the pursuit of happiness in life. So that's very quickly who I am and what I've been up to of late. So let's quickly look at the topic at hand, which is all about digital. And this is the book I've authored. It is coming out hopefully in the next week or so. So when you see this on the stands, you know what to do. So I'm a big believer in gamification of learning. So I don't intend to make this talk one way. Let's have some fun with this topic. So I'm a big believer of quizzing and gamification. We'll start with this particular question. What are we looking at here? What is this contraption? And this is a 5-point question. Let's see who gets it right. You can leave a note on the chat window. What are we looking at here? Just to be sure, the person on the right is a human being. Right? And I'm referring to the black object on the left. What do you think that is?
Is it a door?
It is not a door.
Okay. People can put in their comments in the chat window.
Yeah, it has something to do with digital, obviously. So let's try and figure out, is it a phone? It looks like a giant iPhone, right? But it's not a phone.
Is it a speaker?
It is not a speaker. Okay, anyone else? Rajshri from the audience volunteered with an answer. But how about the others? Neha, Nitya, Priya, Reena. What is this black object that we are looking at? Is it PowerPoint? No. Is it a remote? No. Okay, so I'm going to give you the answer to this one. Is it a window? No. Is it a game board? No. All right, so I'll give you the answer to this one. Hopefully we'll get warmed up by the next. Yeah, it's something digital. Priya, you're right about that. So this is the IBM debater. What we are seeing in front of us is a debating contest between one of the world's best human debater debating against the IBM debating machine. And you know how this all ended. Just like we've lost the chess championship, we've lost in a game of Go, right? Which is a very complex game, and we've lost to AI. This is yet another example where AI is catching up. So this is the IBM debater. Now think about it. What we need to pick up from this trend is that automation has taken away a lot of jobs in the industrial domain, right? So we know if you go into a Mercedes-Benz factory, they say in that factory you will find one human being and a dog, right? And there's obviously a joke. What's the role of the dog? The role of the dog is to make sure that the human being doesn't mess up with the factory. And what's the role of the human being? The role of the human being is to feed the dog, right? The point here is, automation has done, a lot of things in the industrial world. Many of the physical things that we used to do, all that has been automated. Now, what is the next frontier for this is cognitive jobs, right? If a machine can debate in a human-like way, think about what might happen to decision making. Traditionally in companies, we have the CEO saying, you know what, we need to enter China next year. And suddenly if you have an IBM debater in the room and it debates with the CEO that you shouldn't be doing this, look at weather patterns, look at agricultural output, look at trade numbers. I don't know what other variables will have an impact on the Chinese economy, but it's able to crunch all those numbers and give you a reason for why something should be done or not done, right? And I think it's going to be revolutionary in the way we make decisions and the way cognitive work gets done in the future. So in the next few examples, what I will focus on is the blurring away of certain lines. So here the line that's blurring away is the line between the human and the machine. Where the human ends and where the machine begins, we will not be able to tell. Maybe a year from now, we will all be augmented in one way or the other. All right, so that was a 5-point question. I hope we have warmed up sufficiently. Let's look at the next question. And this is a 10-point question. Let's see who gets this one. What are we looking at here? So if you can guess what we are looking at here, and if you can also guess the company that launched this. Okay, Priya says it has something to do with signals. Any other answers? Rakshi, do you have an answer for this? What are we looking at here? Okay, is it heart rate or health related? Okay, quite close. Okay, in this case, I'll give Reena 5 points. Good going. So this is not, it is health related in the sense that, Rakshi, do you want to guess?
Okay, Shaista, go ahead and please input it in the chat window.
Yeah, so I see a hand going up.
Shaista, I also unmuted. I'm trying to unmute you, but please go and put it in website visit.
Okay, is it website visit? No, the answer is what you're seeing in front of you is actually a smart toothbrush. Okay, and which is connected to a mobile app, and if you can see, it says session average, daily, weekly, monthly. So what it's essentially capturing is your brushing patterns, right? How much duration, what duration are you, what amount of time are you spending brushing each day? Are you first of all brushing, and your oral health as well, right? Now the question is, which company do you think came up with this innovation? Which company has launched this? Okay, Oral B, you think? No. You might come up with other answers like Colgate or Pepsodent. That's what you would think. But in this case, this was actually launched by an insurance company called Bean Dental Insurance. Right now, try to understand this model. An insurance company, to me, insurance is this really boring industry where nothing happens. Right, so for the last 100, 150 years, they've been doing the same thing, right? Doing some kind of an algorithm to understand the risk of a particular asset or a person's health, and you're attaching a price to that risk, and you all pay a premium to it. So that model has existed for a very long time. Now, suddenly, with the advent of digital, companies are getting into devices like this that capture data. And can you think about how this data might be used by the dental insurance company? How will they use this data? In the past, in the industrial era, it was a one size fits all approach, right? So everybody in their 20s will pay 100 rupees as premium, for example, and older people pay more. But that was a very one size fit all kind of an approach. But with data, what you're able to now get is hyper personalization, what people call as n equals 1, right? So using my brushing patterns or my driving patterns or my health using Fitbit, for example. So these are devices that are capturing data, and this data is now being used to unlock new revenue models. A dull and boring industry like insurance suddenly has woken up and is innovating very interestingly beyond the boundaries of their industry. Now, think about it, this data can be used in other ways, right? So I can fix up a dentist appointment for you. So this is an insurance company that has launched a smart toothbrush which competes against Colgate. It generates data and it allows me to fix up an appointment for you with a doctor, right? And they are saying Amazon through Alexa is also trying to do something similar. And yesterday I heard, based on your voice, the change in voice, it can detect whether you've got a cold, whether you're feeling well, and it can fix up an appointment with a doctor, ASAP. So that's the era that we are getting into, where industry boundaries are blurring away, right? And the next example will actually give you a better sense of what's going on here. What are we looking at in this example? What do you think is special or digital about these shoes? Any answers to this?
Now we need to really think shoes and digital. Does it, help us run faster?
And if you notice, it has a Pizza Hut logo on it. Now, what's Pizza Hut doing with shoes?
Nitya says it has a map app installed.
Why would you need that, Nitya? Why do you think?
You can use the chat instead of the question and answer. And she says for the delivery boys.
Okay. So yes, so it does make sense. You could give the shoe to the delivery boys, and Maybe your route planning can be done. But why shoes? They've got phones, right? It makes you wonder why would. So if you look this up online, Pizza Hut has launched a series of shoes called Pie Top series of shoes. And no, this is not for the delivery boys. This is for consumers like us. And the fascinating thing here is it's got a button, and when you press that button, they will deliver your favorite pizza, which is preset with them. They'll deliver that exact same pizza to wherever you are. So when I saw this example, I couldn't tell if this was like a genius master stroke or is this plain stupid, right? But that's the nature of innovation, right? You can't judge something like this. If Amazon does stuff like this using Amazon Echo, why can't Pizza Hut do it, right? Now, the thing that we need to pay attention to is how companies are thinking about experience, right? Ultimately, can I catch a person at the moment of desire, right? After I've made up my mind about eating something, before I go to Swiggy, just at the moment of desire, can you catch the person so that they click a button and it's delivered? Instant gratification, right? So you will see that many companies are going beyond their own products to really think about the customer experience journey. What is happening in the life of the customer, which is triggering them to get into our products, right? And can we catch them there? So I'm guessing, this is just a wild guess. Why did they have to introduce this Pie Top series of shoes? I'm guessing a lot of us do promise ourselves, right? And given that this is January, this is very relevant. I'm sure a lot of us made up some New Year resolutions, and we said, this year I'm going to run. I'm going to run a marathon. And we also promise ourselves that if I run, let's say 3 kilometers every day, at the end of it, I'll treat myself to something, right? Maybe that's what they are going after, right? Maybe that's a crucial customer insight that you and I are not privy to. Maybe they've done the research. I'm just guessing, or it's just a plain stupid idea. I don't know. Maybe you'll wear these shoes, you'll go out for a run. You've completed the 3K run and you feel great about yourself and you are pressing the button and you get your favorite pizza delivered to wherever you are. So the industry boundary that's blurring away here, right? So pizza company getting into shoes, right, is the sign of the digital age. Companies no longer are comfortable boxing themselves into their comfort zones. They are venturing out into areas that are unfamiliar, and they have this idea of experimentation, rapid trial and error, right? So there are many more examples that I could share with you on what companies are doing, that examples of stuff that goes beyond the boundaries, right, where boundaries are getting blurred. So just to give you an idea, I've given you 3 examples of lines that are blurring away. But before I present to you the central thesis of the book, let me get this definition out of the way, because when you ask this question, what is digital to different people, you'll get different answers. And it's mind-blowing. So to some people, it is all about automation. For others, it is going paperless. It's ones and zeros. For some, it is connectivity. It's about speed, on demand. So many such adjectives get used. But to me, what has been most useful is to think of digital using this definition. Digital is not a thing. Many companies that we work with, they usually say, hey, I've got a mobile app. So that means I'm digital, right? Or I've got a social media presence through which we do digital marketing. That should make me digital, right? So the answer to all of this is it's a clear no. That doesn't make you digital, because digital is not a thing. It is not a destination. It is a way of doing things. It is all the mindset, which is why many people, you will hear this saying, digital is not really about technology. Technology is an enabler, but digital is really about the mindset and the way of working, right? So it's a way of doing things. You're obviously leveraging technology to achieve 3 outcomes. So from now on, when you hear the word digital, try and anchor that conversation to one of these 3 things. You will find that there is a lot of clarity and structure around it. The first one is exceptional customer experience, right? So in the industrial era, the word that we all obsessed with was efficiency, right? That's, things have to work like clockwork. and you did economies of scale, you mass produce things, and you would push these products through your channels. So that's the operating model for the industrial era. But in the digital age, experience is becoming front and center, right? The customer experience. The word customer here I'm using loosely. It could be your internal customers, your employees as well. So this has become a defining element in decision making. Between Ola and Uber, for example, if there's a 2-second delay in the app opening up or some kind of slowness, you'll switch. Loyalty doesn't mean much in the digital era. So this is becoming front and center. The second one is around being agile, right? So the word agile, maybe some of you are agile project managers or agile specialists. The word agile usually brings to your mind a speed connotation, right? Maybe it's about doing something fast, or it's about being responsive. All these are true, right? It is about doing something fast. It is about doing something in a responsive fashion. The best way to understand this is imagine you're going from point A to point B. In the industrial world, we assumed point B to be static, and we would rush towards point B, right, in a linear fashion. But in today's context, they call it VUCA or whatnot. This point B is constantly shifting around, right? So you're not sure. You don't want to run in a direction and then realize point B has shifted out. So you want to take incremental steps. You take one step, orient yourself, observe, see if the destination has changed, right? Agile is really an incremental way of developing something, and at the same time being fast about failure and learning, and then you're responding to customer demand, right? So the most important thing in agile is to create value for the customer. Otherwise, you're wasting resources. The last element is unlocking new value. While experience and agile are about doing perhaps things faster, cheaper, and better, right? But that's been always the name of the game. Faster, cheaper, better has always been the name of the game. Nothing unique about it. To me, the game changer with digital is unlocking new value. So if you think about it, it's not like we did not have cabs 5 years, 10 years ago, but today you have a software layer that is, sort of, wrapping itself around cabs, and it's extracting a lot of value. Which company am I referring to? Uber, of course. It's not like we did not have spare rooms in our homes, but today there is a software layer that is wrapping itself around that particular unutilized asset, and it is generating a lot of value. Here I'm referring to Airbnb, right? So, which is why many years ago, Mark Andreessen, a famous venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, said that software is eating the world. Today, you look around you, you know this to be true, right? Be it a taxi industry or healthcare, you name it, education, every single industry is getting eaten by software, right? And now there's an extension to it. They say AI is eating software, right? But that's another story. The whole idea is how do you unlock new value? And this is happening because of data, which is why a lot of people say data is the new oil. A quick statistic to prove this point. 5 years ago, if you made a list of companies that were the largest in terms of market capitalization, this is a quiz question. It's worth 10 points. You can redeem this at your nearest cafeteria. What sort of companies would you have seen on the list? Top 10 companies in the largest companies in the world by market cap. What sort of companies would you have seen on that list 5 years ago? Can you name a couple of companies that were really large in terms of market cap? Yeah, so a couple of examples on the chat, kind of companies that were on that list 5 years ago, largest in terms of market cap.
There's Apple, Alibaba.
Okay, Apple, Alibaba, so Rajshri is saying IBM. So what you would realize is 5 years ago, you would have seen the oil companies, the major banks, right? So that's the Exxon Mobils of the world, right? So they were on that list. Now you look at that list today, you'll realize 7 out of the top 10 companies worldwide by market cap are software platform companies, right? Which includes Google, Amazon, Facebook, Alibaba, Microsoft, right? And this is literally the story of data being the new oil. Oil companies have been pushed out, data companies are on that list. And that's how these companies become stronger and stronger because they've got truckloads of data using which they are unlocking new value. So that the digital haves and have-nots is really a story of data and AI. The ones that have got the data and can use it smartly end up becoming more and more powerful, right? So that's the story. So now, having understood digital, let's go into the digital blur story, right? So when I looked at this particular quote by Pierre Nanterme, today he's the ex-CEO of Accenture. He stepped down this month. This is a quote that caught my attention. He says digital is the main reason why over half of the companies on the Fortune 500 list have disappeared from that list. If you look at it, there's nothing surprising about companies falling off that list because companies do have they do fall off that list because of poor performance. What is stunning about this is the sheer scale, right? Half of the companies, which is 250 companies, have become irrelevant. I'm here talking about BlackBerry, I'm talking about Blockbuster, I'm talking about Toys R Us. All these companies had the best CEOs, best management, they were successful over many, many years, but suddenly digital comes in and they lose the plot. Why does this happen? So this is the question that I started with when I started researching for the book. When I ask this to people, they say, hey, this is because we didn't adapt ourselves fast enough. True. We did not know the game plan of the tech companies. That's also true. We understand our nearest competitor, but we have no idea how Google is thinking about our industry, right? So that's all true. But when I peeled the onion, it became quite apparent that some of the lines that we are used to from the industrial age, these lines were simply disappearing and they were blurring away, right? And a large company is not getting this. They are still holding on to these lines out of sheer inertia and habit. Whereas digital natives have no illusions around these lines, right? So they know these lines don't exist. So what sort of lines are these? Digital blur. Blur is an acronym which stands for boundaryless organizations. When you think about Uber, for example, this is a classic. You would have seen this. How many cars does Uber have? How many cars do they own? The answer is zero. How many rooms does Airbnb actually own? The answer is zero. How many network towers does Skype have? The answer is zero. What's going on here, right? Because in the industrial era, we thought ownership was very important. That's what led you to dominate a particular industry. Whereas in the digital age, it is all about access. You don't have to own it. All you need to develop is access to the right resources and the ability to connect with these resources onto your platform that then you can deliver to your customers. So in that respect, many digital native companies like Uber or Airbnb or Google, they operate in a boundaryless fashion. Anything and everything can become a resource for them to add value to the customer, which is quite a departure from the traditional way of thinking, right? Which says anything within my organization is what I can exercise control over, right? So that's a different way of approaching it. Second is limitless digitization. Anything that you see around you, literally anything. The chair that you are sitting on today, it's a non-intelligent object, right? The chair. Now, the simplest way to make it a digital chair is to slap a sensor on it and connect it to the cloud, right? It becomes digital. And you might ask me, why would you do that? What's the rationale for doing it? To which I will say, I don't know. I will know the answer when I see some data coming out of it. Now think about it. What sort of data can a chair give us, right? If you think about it, you'll be surprised. There is a lot of behavioral data that can come out of this chair. For example, you're sitting on a chair. Let's say you are in a meeting, a very important boardroom presentation, and right? And so are the people engaged in this meeting or not? So that's something that the chair can tell you. I can look at a mobile app. It'll tell you, heart rate, posture. Is this person sitting on the chair for too long? It might give you an alert saying, sitting is the new smoking, better stand up. So what I'm trying to drive home here is every object that is in the physical world will also potentially going forward. As many researchers are saying, the line between the physical, digital, and the biological, is already blurring away. A lot of people are choosing to have a microchip embedded inside their body, precisely between your thumb and the index finger. You can have a chip embedded, right? As a learning professional, I dream of a day where I can download Wikipedia into this and I don't have to learn for the rest of my life. So that's limitless digitization, which means we will be living in an going to cope up with this human machine coexistence, right? So that's a big question here. Unbounded innovation is all about industry lines blurring away. Think about it for a second. When driverless cars become mainstream, if and when they become mainstream, think about the kind of industries that will have to rethink their game. Starting with maybe insurance. You know, what are you really insuring? You have to think about that, right? Or it could be your traffic signal, the infrastructure design that has to be rethought, because the red, amber, green, the traffic signal is for irrational human drivers. But for connected cars, you don't need that design. To traffic cops, to emergency wards, parking lots, you have to rethink the entire game, right? So connected cars is just one concept like this. There are 36, at least 36 transformative technologies that are all coming into the industry 4.0 all at the same time. So all these technologies have the promise of blurring away many industries. Lawyers, you know, we thought lawyers are irreplaceable. How can a robo replace a lawyer? Today with blockchain, banking, the legal profession, accounting, all of these professions are getting questioned. Lastly, relentless iteration. That's a story of the time dimension blurring away, the now, new, and the next, right? So many companies will have a strategy around this, right? So they'll say, I have a strategy for the now. This is what we need to do now. Next 18 months, we need to do this. Next 5-year time horizon, we need to do X, Y, and Z. So today, when I talk to senior leaders, they laugh me out of the room when I ask them, what's your 5-year plan? They say, I have visibility beyond a year, let alone 18 months or 36 months. So the now, new, and the next are all playing out at the same time, and it's all happening in rapid iterations, right? So this is not a full stop. In the industrial era, we could say, I'm done, right? I'm done with the product and it's a full stop. Today, there is no full stop. It's a comma, right? And those of us, and I know there are a lot of us who like to make to-do lists daily. And at the end of the day, you like to have a psychological high when you cross out that thing from your to-do list. In the digital world, there's no scratching out. It's a comma that you have, and you need to relentlessly iterate on something, because every system that you're producing is living and breathing data. And as long as that is happening, there is still more work to be done. As you can realize, this has deep implication. Blur has deep implication for the way companies have to respond to this, right? From a strategy perspective, if you're operating in a boundaryless fashion, you have to become an ecosystem, you have to become a platform where others can participate as well. Limitless digitization, where data becomes your core strategy. Unbounded innovation, where you think design, you think like a designer, and you create great experience for your customers. And relentless iteration is a story of agility, right? How fast can I change my products, my strategy, and so on and so forth. So each of these things are firstly a mindset item, right? Firstly, something needs to change in the way we think about the way of working, right? And I'll talk about it in the next couple of slides. So if you think about, as leaders, why even leaders? Everybody is a leader in the digital age. What are some competencies we need to develop? What are some areas that as individuals we need to focus on in the digital blur era? When everything is becoming boundaryless and companies are starting to integrate to Paytm, to Book My Show, right? And you're creating an integrated offer. The mindset is that of an orchestrator. You don't have to create everything yourself. Just like Uber does not have to produce cars, they are in the business of connecting and facilitating, right? Can we as individuals also get in the business of connecting ideas to people, to resources, instead of trying to create everything from scratch, right? Because in the digital world, unlike the industrial world, we truly live in the era of abundance. The factors of production, people, money, and technology are all available to do many interesting things. Limitless digitization, we need to become awesome at sense making. When you look at data, the ability to connect these data points in interesting ways, and more importantly, narrate a story around this data that others can understand and act upon. So that sense making leader, design leader. I truly believe that in the future where everything is automated and you'll have AI playing a big role, the area where humans will thrive is perhaps in the design space, because that's the space where empathy comes in, where you know what it feels to be a human, right? And you can empathize and you can design for that experience. So I would strongly recommend anything that you do. It could be a party that you host at home, or a mobile app that you develop. Can you think like a designer? And more precisely, can you think more like a game designer? If you think about it, Angry Birds, somebody somewhere created this game, and we were hooked to this experience for many months on end, right? So there is a science and art of creating awesome experience. So can we all think like designers? And finally, can we all become more agile in the way we learn things? Instead of saying, I know it all, can we start by saying, I don't know, and I'm comfortable with it, and I have the humility to say, I will go find out, I'll seek help, right? So that's the mindset of an agile leader, and they follow the build, measure, learn cycle, where learning is integral to becoming agile. So these are, I think, the core competencies we need to build in the digital age. The more networked you are, the better off you are, the more sense-making you are, the more design that you apply in your area of work, you will stand out. And the more agile you are, you learn and apply things, I think that's going to hold you in good stead in the digital age. So now think about the organizations that you will get into or you're already part of. We need to reimagine the way of working, which is the cultural element as well. If organizations become boundaryless, it means that one should be able to act in an open manner, right? So we're not hoarding stuff, we are sharing things, and we are okay to collaborate, across functional boundaries, even across companies, right? That's how you create larger value. How do you embrace data-enabled culture? So if you look at it in a lot of organizations, decisions get made by this methodology we have, and it's a joke. It goes by HIPPO, HIPPO. What does it stand for? It stands for highly paid person's opinion, right? That seems to be the norm for taking decisions inside companies. And the other day I saw HIPPO has been upgraded to Zebra, and Zebra stands for zero evidence, but really arrogant, right? So that model of a hierarchical decision-making process or command and control kind of a process needs to give way to more of a data-enabled process, maybe guided by some AI, but ultimately, the human intuition and expertise blended with that data, is what we are looking at. Diverse and inclusive culture. This is not just from a D&I perspective that we have, a tick mark on our HR agenda, not from that perspective, because I see this as core to innovation. As a platform, as an ecosystem, you're not diverse and inclusive, if you're not hearing your partners out, if you're not listening to your customers, you're not inclusive about design, you might create something that is your product, but it doesn't help, doesn't create a win-win. To be able to operate in an ecosystem, win-win is the model of thinking, right? So being diverse and inclusive becomes an act of culture of organizations that succeed. And lastly, for relentless iteration, fail fast, learn fast culture, and not holding on to your ideas so close and so dearly to yourself that you will not give up on your bad idea. How can you quickly learn from experience, move on, try new things, be in experimental mode, right? So, and these are, I think, table stakes. If we don't have these 4 dimensions in an organization, I think digital transformation will not succeed. That's a plain reality here, because all these 4 elements are integral for responding to the blur phenomenon. So now, what can we prepare for? I'm sure you're thinking, and I got a chance to look at all your expectations from this particular session. Ultimately, it boils down to, okay, all this is fine. I know these things are happening in the digital world. What can I do? How can I be future ready? So I'm sure that question is playing in your mind. And this is what I do, right? To stay relevant at Knowlescape and in general in the digital world. One thing is it's very hard to keep up because so many things are happening around us. So the one thing that I rely on is my network. So build a great network on LinkedIn, on Twitter. On Twitter, it's okay to follow an Abhishek Bachchan for entertainment, but he's unlikely to give you great wisdom on digital. There are extraordinary thought leaders on digital. So can we build a network? Can we, connect with these thought leaders? Can we learn from their experience? Because today you get all that wisdom for free, right? And it's broken down for you. So that's step number one. Can you develop an outside in perspective, right? And constantly being curious and hyper aware on what's going on in the world and constantly connecting those dots and having conversations with people. That's a great way to learn. Developing working understanding of technologies and their impact, right? It's not important that we need to all be great at IoT and blockchain and this and that. It's impossible for all of us to keep up, but at least a working understanding of understanding the impact. Okay, if IoT is getting into healthcare, I think these are the 5 things that will get disrupted, right? So you're sort of becoming a futurist there. And then you know what to do right now, right? So if you understand the impact. The one thing that I would encourage you to do, while there are a lot of technologies that you could be learning, at the base of it all, there is data, right? And I spoke about how data is a new oil. It's the lifeblood of being digital. The one thing that you can and should do a deep dive on is data analytics, right? We should all become a little more be familiar with data and how to read data. And this is about digital literacy, like financial literacy, numerical literacy, and linguistic literacy. So this is digital literacy. To me, digital literacy starts with data, right? And I know some of us, including myself, I have a challenge here. While I'm an engineer, I've done an MBA. I can't look at Excel spreadsheet for too long. It gives me a headache. But I've told myself that this is the language in the digital age, right? And we need to get better at it. It's a core digital skill. The other one is committing to lifelong learning. Never stagnate. Invest in your capability development. Be it attending a conference or a webinar, because those things also give you a network, and commit to capability development and be intentional about it, not just random, right? So pick an area and go for mastery and be intentional about what you do. Think like a designer. I spoke about this. Pick problems that you want to solve those issues. And the mindset is always staying curious, understanding what's happening in healthcare, what's happening in media. So these are some of the things that you can learn and apply in your own domain. And above all, develop an experimental mindset. It's okay to fail, but set up the safety net. And last and final question. This question is get this one. Who is this gentleman? And what's the connect with digital? I'll give you a clue. He was an ex-champion of this sport, of this game. All right, Vinita, you are the clear winner of this gamified master class. You walk away with 100 points. Kudos to you. So this is Gary Camp, the chess grandmaster, right? You know what happened to him. There's an absolutely brilliant TED talk you watch, and it inspires me every time I get some confusion around digital. I go back and watch that video. The narrative that you hear in the media is, oh, AI is coming and it's taking over all our jobs, right? That's an either or narrative. I think that there's a more empowering narrative, which is that it could and his TED talk actually talks about that. He lost to the IBM supercomputer in the 97, 98 time frame. What's interesting is there were 2 contests. The first one he actually won. Nobody talks about it. The second one he lost, and that goes on to become headline. And what's interesting is between the 2 contests, the machine learned, right, and the human did not. Why should we be afraid of technology? If we embrace them and we know how to use them well in our area, I think we'll come out as winners. So I hope that story inspires you as much as it inspired me. So let me pause. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Rajiv. That was brilliant. I mean, to start with, it got us a little worried because there was so much that one needs to be aware of, and I was wondering how does one learn all of this to be relevant today. But I think the last slide that you put in terms of what one needs to start with. It's not to learn all technologies in the world, it's impossible, but at least have an appreciation for what's coming. And the 2 big points for me was have a designer's mind always. I think that's absolutely important,
Yeah.
to be able to try and figure out what problems and really innovative ways to solve them. So I'll let the rest of the audience put in their thoughts, questions, comments. You could raise hands and we'll try to unmute you. Otherwise, you can please go ahead and put in your question in the chat window or the Q&A window, and we will ask and get answers from Rajiv. We still have 10 minutes, so time for a lot of questions. Please make use of this opportunity. Rajiv is the expert in this field, so let's make use of his time now that he's available for us.
And Vinita, I'll get your coordinates and I'll send you a signed copy of the book for winning the contest.
Wow. So Rajiv, while people may be still thinking of their questions, so now we understand that it is absolutely important for us to kind of understand this world and see how we move into it. And you've also seen the kind of audience profile that I shared with you, many of them being on a break for some number of years and wanting to restart. What may be, a very quick starting point for them to get, a bit more, in-depth understanding of this field, which can probably take them towards better interview experience, kind of able to impress upon the interviewer that they are fluid and into this.
Yeah, so when I think about readiness for digital, there are, think of it as three bubbles, right? So it's like a Venn diagram. Excuse me, I'm an engineer, always think in terms of Venn diagrams and bubbles. So there are three bubbles that we need to sort of bring together to say that, okay, I've got the picture, right? One element is no functional piece, right? If you're a digital marketer, and I saw some of us are in the marketing domain and we are looking at digital marketing, right? So there is a digital element and there's a marketing element, and you bring these two things together, right? So that's a techno-functional piece of digital. So I would encourage you to get certified, go to some workshops, get yourself up to date. If possible, in today's context, it's very easy to start up your own website. I would encourage you to do it. I'm sure some of us are blogging quite a lot, be it about technology or cooking or gardening or traveling, whatever your area of interest may be, can you run that like a business? You may not have a commercial motive behind it, which is completely fine, but can you build an audience around it, right? In the process of doing that, you will touch upon all things that are needed for digital, right? You will know how to make something viral. You will learn the tips and tricks of doing SEO marketing, for example, and how do I boost my presence online, or how do I get influencers to talk about my stuff, right? So what I would recommend is, can you take your pet project, right? Whatever it could be, right? From traveling to yoga, whatever it is, can you start taking that to a digital domain where you're passionate about it and you want to reach a certain audience? And in that process, you will get hands-on experience. I feel experiential learning is the best way to learn. And so I would recommend that you, and that's what I meant by, the experimenter's mindset. Can you spend, say, 1,000 rupees to get a domain, spend enough time, get some certifications on digital marketing, and actually do it yourself, right? So that's going to give you a lot of confidence. And when you're in an interview scenario and people ask you, hey, what have you done, right? And you can show your blog and say, hey, I've got 10,000 followers or 20,000, 50,000 followers, and this is what I did. That's the value people want to see, right? Can you take an idea to scale? Right? And that's valuable in a startup, it's valuable in a large company. That's probably what I would recommend for people who are trying to get into the industry. They want to showcase new capabilities. Yeah, so there's one more question. What, in your view, are three behavioral changes that novices need to focus on? The first one, I would say, is around learning. And there could be a bias because I'm in the learning space as well, but I know this to be true through a lot of anecdotes looking at how people are evolving in the digital age. If you're not into reading books, for example, right, it need not be a 300-page book, even book summaries, right? There are some really cool apps that give you interesting book summaries. Get into the habit of reading books. Follow people on Twitter and LinkedIn. You could, and the best way I've realized over time to learn is to actually write. Right? I know it's difficult for all of us. It's a nightmare for me to think about just sitting in front of a computer and starting to write. Somehow I had to overcome that. But I realized the more you start producing, the clearer your head becomes. Right? So that's a behavioral change, right? Don't be a passive consumer. The point I'm trying to make is be a producer as well, right? And so you'll realize your learning just accelerates. So those are some behavioral changes that I would encourage. Don't be passive. Digital is not something that you can sit on the fence on. You need to roll up your sleeves and participate in it. Right. So Reena has a question on, if I were an entrepreneur, what three digital learnings will help me scale my business? All right. So when I think about entrepreneurship, right, there are four questions you need to ask. One is around the idea itself, right? So I call it the founder idea fitment. It's not like everybody can run any idea, right? So if you ask me, can I do a startup in the dairy space where I can create some application of in the dairy? I'm just putting an example here. Maybe I will not get connected to that idea at all. I'm just guessing, right? So firstly, there has to be a founder idea fitment, right? Something that you're passionate about and you're willing to give it all. Second is there is an idea solution fitment. For the idea or the problem that you've identified, is there a viable and feasible solution? Sometimes you may not get a practical solution for it. So spend a lot of time iterating over what's the right solution for it. Then there's a solution market fitment. For the solution you come up with, are companies or individuals willing to pay for it? That's a litmus test, right? Iterate over that. And lastly, there is a solution scale fitment. And this is a choice. Sometimes you may choose to not scale anything at all. It's completely fine. If you say, I want to run something boutique, it's a choice, but that's the last filter. So I would say start with these four questions. Think about what does founder idea fitment actually mean? And what do I have to learn, firstly, about myself, what my interests are, before I can even get into the business domain and start thinking about what needs to be done there. Then the idea solution, then the market fitment, and then the scale fitment. So I would probably prioritize my learning across these four levels and go deeper into each of these four areas. Reena, did that answer your question?
While we can wait for the next question, I just want you to kind of mention what is the importance of a digital presence for any candidate today. Of course, we have LinkedIn. But beyond that, how important? I mean, how much does your organization, rely on that when they do look at candidates?
Yeah, so and interestingly, it's very important for organizations also to take it seriously, because many people who come for interviews to Nonscape apply to us because we have a great Glassdoor rating and we are a great place to work and all of that. Right, it's equally important for organizations also to take care of it, because the first and sometimes the last impressions are also happening completely online. Impressions are getting created, right? So I know a lot of recruiters first look at LinkedIn, and within that, it's very important to have the right profile. Talk about things that matter, right? Sometimes I find that we're not showcasing ourselves too well, and active producer also really helps, right? If you're writing articles, for example, I would value that a lot, right? So if I'm looking for a business development candidate and I go to his LinkedIn or her LinkedIn profile, and I see that in addition to just liking and sharing a few things, is this person producing something of value? To me, that matters a lot, because you're putting a line on the sand. You're committing yourself to an idea, right? To me, that's very valuable. So I value producers a lot. So think about what you want to showcase in these platforms as well: certifications, your articles, your publications, your associations with maybe some industry bodies, your volunteering. That's very important as well, because it gives the reader a sense for your profile, your personality as well. Very important in digital age to also project a human face, right? We all ultimately connect as human beings, so it's very important to showcase that really well.
So we have one more minute before we wind up. Any last thoughts, comments, questions, suggestions? Doesn't look like anything else. So I'll thank Rajiv on the behalf of Foundation and all our community members for taking time out for this wonderful session. And please do follow Rajiv on the Twitter handle and on LinkedIn, as he mentioned, because it's important that we are well networked with thought leaders, because that's where we also get our inspiration, but we also get to understand what's happening around in the industry so that we can kind of go towards or rather have a direction in terms of where we have to channelize our learning, and hence also the actions that we need to take after we've kind of learned all those topics. So thank you, Raju, once again, and I will see you all again next week for the next masterclass.
All right, thank you all. And Vinita, please connect with me on LinkedIn and drop me your coordinates, and I'll send the book as soon as I receive it. And thank you all. I hope this was useful. Let's stay connected.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.